and I'd like to welcome Mike Osterling, co-author of the Kaizen Event Planner. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Tony. Thanks.
Okay. Mike, how does 5S fit in with your office projects?
Yeah, 5S in the office is it's an interesting phenomenon, I'll say. On the shop floor, it's, hey, where do we put our tools? Where do we put our parts? Where do we put our documentation and equipment and things like that? It's very tactile. It's very visual. It's intuitive in many ways. In the office, it's a little bit different. Our primary resource in the office is information. So our first focus is go in and try to make it easy for people to find and access the right information when it's needed. And so our first focus is think about the information that people need and figure out how to make it available to them. So obviously in an electronic environment, a lot of the information is stored in computers, and so we'll talk to people about, hey, what's your file structure, what's your data storage strategy, if you will. And if I'm sick, Tony, can you come in? You do the same job as I, but if I'm sick, can you come in and find my information without a whole lot of pain? So that's our baseline, and from there we start growing and let's get off the computer and let's start thinking about what are those other resources that folks need. It's people, it's materials, or it is supplies and things like that. So we'll do 5S, some visual aids, if you will. So you kind of get this overlap between visual aids and 5S and standard work even. Hey, people come, they're looking for me, I'm not here, who's my backup? And so let's put something there. I'm a purchasing manager, I'm a buyer. And so Mike Osterling, buyer, sheet metal. So I'm gone, I'm not in my office. There's a guy from the floor that needs to know about some sheet metal. Well, what's he gonna do? Come back and check every half hour to see if I'm there? He doesn't have time necessarily. So it'll say, hey, my backup is Tony, and here's his extension. So that's kind of, they're simple things, but we're visualizing people and resources and how can we quickly access this stuff. Supplies, we'll put in place vendor managed inventory, or we'll put in place 2-bin systems for office supplies and things like that. It can be kind of traumatic, but we'll actually, if it makes sense, we'll get a team together and we'll say, hey, let's start looking at cubicles. I'm not going to tape out where your stapler goes. That's not what it's all about. But what are the reports you have? How come in the purchasing department we've got 6 different sets of Thomas registers? And hey, they're online. Or maybe it's something that's not online. Should we have a central library that everybody in the engineering group has access to, instead of hidden information in one engineer's area or another engineer's area? So 5S in the office, it's a little tough to kind of identify what the opportunities are, but the interesting thing is once we can provide some focus, the folks who are living with these processes on a day-to-day basis are usually real effective in coming up with good solutions.
Mike, do you have any examples, any stories you'd like to share about how 5S worked in the office?
Yeah, there was an interesting story, and I guess it's a 2-part story. Again, we're looking at a procurement process. We're going through the area, doing the initial assessment, if you will, and I see this row of file cabinets, and there's literally stacks of purchase orders sitting on top of these file cabinets. And so I go over there and I ask the folks, so what's this? These are POs waiting to be filed. And how often do you file them? Is this today's POs that need to be filed? And they said, no, we probably file 3 times a month, 2 times a month, something like that. I said, okay, that's cool. And so, is that a problem? They said, no, it's all right. We accumulate, we file. I say, well, do you ever waste time looking for these POs, these hard copy POs? They're like, no, it's okay that we only file them a couple times a month. And then I asked, so how can you not lose time or waste time looking for these POs? They said, because we never have to look for them. We never have to look through them. We never have to retrieve them. It's like, okay, so why are they there in the first place? Why are you wasting this time filing and doing all that stuff? And of course the answer was because we always do it. So they've got a complete integrated SAP system, and it took a while to get there, but eventually, it was literally years before they agreed that they didn't need to file hard copies of these. In the meantime, what they successfully did was they started saying, okay, let's put some order to this stuff. and let's say these types of POs go here, and these types of POs go here. Who owns this if it's out of control? And when are we going to destroy stuff? So we did a similar thing in human resources. We said every file that goes into the, we all have seen the dead file areas that are actually dangerous to go into because the boxes of things, and it's people hate going into dead file archival areas. And so we had it was a massive undertaking, but we went into the dead files area. Some things had to be hard copies. We said, okay, let's set some rules. Let's put in place some color coding rules. Human resources has purple covers or purple labels, and accounting has red labels, and export has a different color label. And then we put on each one of those boxes, what are the contents, what's the time period that it covers, and what's the destroy date. And then we actually had a layout for the dead files area, standardized racks, standardized boxes, and it says this is where the HR stuff, here's where the finance stuff is, here's where import-export stuff is. And it made going into the dead files area a lot less dangerous.
And finally, Mike, how can we find out more information?
There's a bunch of resources out there. Of course, Tony's got some stuff at the 5S Supply Store, great tools. I'm a consultant. I support people and help people walk through this process. And my information's at www.mosterling.com.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony.